Robert, we had an eventful day today. We heard that they are going to be seeking prosecution, in fact, on very serious charges down in Atlanta. I know you've said before there is no rationale whatsoever of what happened in Minnesota, and you don't even understand how Officer Chauvin could even be a cop, let alone those standing around could have done nothing. With the video you've seen, and as you understand the case in Atlanta, did you agree with the prosecution, or did they overcharge the incident?
I don't agree with the prosecution. The statutes may be different in Atlanta, but in New York, a taser is considered a deadly weapon, and you can use deadly physical force in two instances. And those instances are if you feel your life is in imminent danger or the life of another person is in imminent danger. And the taser in New York is considered, as I said, a deadly weapon.
One of the things, and I always say, listen, I'm sitting in an air-conditioned studio here, so I find it hard to pass judgment on certain things. But what struck me out of this is how many of these incidents turn from something of very minor nature and they just escalate, okay? In this particular case, the guy was passed out at a drive-through, right? Pulled over, went through, but we saw in Minnesota it was over a forged $20 bill. And you can point to circumstance after circumstance. We saw what happened in Staten Island, et cetera, over loose cigarettes. Is there a way with policing that it doesn't escalate? Forget about who's to blame for the escalation. My point is, how do we get from a situation where it's a misdemeanor to something that involves a fatality eventually?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I've always believed I was a New York City detective for 17 years. I've made well over 1,000 gun arrests, and none of them were easy. I mean, these things happen in an instant, in a second, and you have to make that split decision as to what you're going to do. Now, to answer your question, I think that de-escalation should be trained to these young kids that are coming out now. They talk about it in the academy. They always tell you to try to de-escalate any situation. But as you know, every job is different. Every person you meet is different. A lot of times they see you trying to de-escalate it and they look at that as softness or weakness, and that will embolden them to fight back.
You've yourself, this isn't theoretical to you, you've had to draw your gun when you're on the job, and you've been shot at as well on multiple occasions. Yeah. How split second was it? Were there times now with the benefit of hindsight where was every time necessary? Now that you're older, would you have done it any different? Was it unavoidable?
Well, and again, I'm speaking for myself. As I said, I've made over 1,000 gun arrests. None of them were off the radio. They were all pickups. And 4 times in 4 separate instances, I've had to use my weapon. Unfortunately, 2 of the men that fired upon me and I fired back, they lost their lives. The 2 others, they did not. We apprehended them, and that was it. But the 996 other times that I've chased these guys with weapons, where they're swinging their gun as they're running, every one of those moments, I knew that I would be justified in taking their life, because all they have to do is pull 3 pounds of pressure on that trigger, and I'm going to get shot. In fact, one of them, I was 7 feet away from him, and I was chasing him, and he turned with the gun. The gun went off, it hit me in the elbow, and I didn't even realize I was hit. And then I started chasing him further. My partner saw the blood coming down my arm. He screamed I was hit. And the second time he turned, and that's when I engaged him. So these things happen so fast, and they're not fluid. It's just, it's insanity.
Well, It's an interesting read if people want to check out the book No Lights, No Sirens. It's unvarnished. I'd love to talk at another time just about that, because you lay it out there in terms of you yourself said you did a lot of stuff when you were a cop, lying on the stand, playing Russian roulette at one point, literally, and you also had a ton of accommodations and citations for heroism on the job. So it was, I guess part of me would say it seemed that you policed yourself at the end.
Yeah.
Are you worried, though? Not everybody can figure out where that line is, and we're seeing this now in living color because of the presence of video now. And because discretion can be a dangerous thing for people who don't have it. And I don't know we're going to have nuance anymore. It's going to be more, pardon the pun, black and white. Because of that, is it that we need to maybe get a different kind of officer, or is it that the rules will fix this one way or the other?
You made a good point. The camera, as I said before, cameras are everywhere. So I think that in itself are going to stop a cop from doing something where he would know that there are no cameras. I could do anything I want. Cops know that there are cameras in tree poles, in lights. Kids have cameras now in their eyeglasses. So I think that just the knowledge of that awareness that Big Brother's watching all the time, I think that is going to help a lot. I do believe that these situations come up every so often. They're going to happen. It's just the beast of the burden. But I also feel that with the inception of this sort of ring of cameras, police officers are not going to be as aggressive as they once were before cameras were everywhere, were so pervasive.
Robert Sia, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Great meeting you. Thank you, sir.
All right. When we come back, everyone, I'm sure by now you've heard that the president's holding a rally in Oklahoma this Saturday, but you may not know about some of the details that not only make this thing beyond questionable, but also potentially dangerous.